What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome back to another watch list video. There's not much to do in this market, really. It's pretty boring. Either super big volatility recently in some names or failed breakouts that, still have a chance to just possibly look like squats like Dell on the screen now. And then, names only working for a short number of days before reversing on you, whether it's an AEHR, which looked awesome, and now it looks like this. I didn't do anything today personally. Same thing with yesterday. But tomorrow's Friday. I just want to let you guys know there's no watch this video tomorrow night, but I will be back on Sunday night. So let's go through the markets here. QQQ lost the 50-day, right? But it's day one, so an undercut and rally can happen tomorrow, and that's what I'll personally be watching for. If that happens right through the 50-day / through today's highs, would be an interesting spot to see if we can rally back through that. I've select few names I'm eyeing in the case that happens, which I'll go over here in just a second. But focusing on stuff like the best groups, stuff that's been holding up the best, software, biotech, and things like that. Although some of the stuff is extended, but I will say software has had some time to rest, so it's looking a little bit better. And in the next few days, into next week, I guess you could say, that stuff can look even better. So best to remain patient, not feel the need to take a bunch of trades during a choppy market environment. Um, the probability those type of setups work out right now is very low, right? You got your SPY coming into an all-time high pivot. That could be an interesting spot for high or low. This thing's pretty much out of the range, right? The big range that it made, but QQQ is still stuck in that range. Did lose the 50-day, but another one where it's like, don't want to see it take out the fall through day lows, but it can build a higher low here. 100%. You are getting looks like a $2 gap up in the after hours, which is interesting to say the least. So will be interesting to focus on some other stuff and not like lagging groups, right? Which I'll go over all those groups here in a second. But like speaking of like SPY, like NTAP, like another stock that comes out of the range or out of its base and it's coming back and retesting the top of it. Maybe that's a similar type of setup. Or if you want to look at the software name, MongoDB, same thing, right? Almost reminds me of SPY coming out of the range and pulling right back into the top of the pivot. That could be a spot for reversal for higher low. To me, like I said last night, market is searching for a higher low while the QQQ is stuck in the range, right? Don't force trades all day long right now. That's not what you want to do, right? It's a choppy environment. Stuff's working to the downside, right? Like even if you want to look at STX as like a failed breakout short spot on this day, it was, and that's working out really well. You saw a big push yesterday. Still has a chance possibly to make higher lows, and it's still inside a base. So I don't want to talk too much about this name, but in the meantime, in the short time, the last few days, this week, we've seen the short side work way better, of course, right? And you can even take a look at like IWO, right? Growth names have been getting hit pretty hard, but overall, it's trying to build some sort of a base and has a chance to build a higher low here at a big spot, 50-day. Best to wait for that higher low throughout the rest of the market, right? Let's go through breadth here, right? Not the best day under the hood, right? Tons of stocks getting hit, but I will say my scanning was pretty easy tonight. Tons of trash, tons of turds, which a lot of those can turn up if the market bounces for a day or two, but for now, not the best. And if you look at the 10x ATR extended from the 50-day, this shows you the best acting groups, right? Drug manufacturers, biotech, software, medical devices, healthcare, health information, right? Shows you the best groups. But overall, breadth wasn't the greatest day. A lot of stuff getting hit from scanning as well. A lot of stuff got hit. There's a lot of red on the screens and the charts. Let's go through futures here. Crude oil, nice move today out of this little mini range. I always do that. Crude oil, nice move today out of this little mini range has been building to me. It looks like a nice little push today. It's got this like this big trend line, I guess you could say, that it looks like it wants to push out of. Would be super interesting to see if it does, but I don't know. Cough was a nice one today, but it's right. I mean, this thing has a monster base, right? You look at a monthly chart, weekly, whatever. It's got a pretty big base. Which this was an interesting one today. But then DK not giving up, everything, but pretty deep pullback today on this stuff. PBF's another one where I think this, lost a 10-day, a little bit of a pullback. Maybe it's another one that's going to search for higher low. XLE, you get extended. You shouldn't be buying these things up here. So let these things rest now. So that's how I feel about crude oil. Bitcoin, absolute monster. Like this thing is insane. A big move off the lows. Talked about last night how this could possibly look like from last year, right? You get the monster move up back to 200-day. Now let us build a setup here. Let this thing continue just making a rocket move. If you own it, trim into the strength. Now let it build a new setup, new flag, new base, whatever, and we can go for it. ETHA, another one, big move today, right at the 200-day. Probably an area you want to be trimming. Not selling everything, but trimming some. IBIT, super nice move, right? This thing's up like 20% in the last few days. Big move there in those ones. And then I think Circle, right, is right at the 200-day. So, maybe a trim spot in the short term, but to me, it looks like it very possibly get back through that. So definitely interesting. PURR right through that high volume close from the highest volume ever yesterday. It's got earnings coming up, but I don't see a setup on these yet, right? They've made their big moves. Let them continue doing that. And then you can go from Ethereum as well, just an absolute monster. And you're getting like XRP and other names starting to go. And then Hype, which has been a popular one, making a pretty nice move, which also is trying to build a nice base. So Kospi moving higher in the after hours. Let's stop talking about crypto. Kospi moving a little bit higher in the after hours, right? Maybe not as much now, but you know, it's got an inside day, or almost an inside day. It looks interesting to say the least. We had a nice day yesterday. Gold back through the 200. Nice stall bar day. Looks like it wants to push higher. These gold miners are insane, right? GDX is absolutely insane. What a day today and day yesterday, right? SSRM is at new highs, I think. Pretty big. Could be a double top short sale, but either way, I wouldn't be buying it up here. NEM, another one that's been a beast. These things I think will hopefully offer setups and real tightness soon. But I mean, this little flag that they built was pretty interesting. And then you got like HMY, huge move. AU, another one, big move. And so many of these, right? So the gold group, continue to keep an eye on these. Maybe they can build new setups that are cleaner. NQ, right, lost the 50-day, not the best look. ES, you know, losing the 20-day, but right at that prior pivot. So we'll see if this can be an area to rally back through. And same thing with NQ, right? You have nasty close below the 50, but now we have the opportunity to just rally right back through and make this like a 50-day moving average undercut and rally. That'd be interesting to say the least. Something I'll just keep on the back burner. Now I'm going to go for my watch list here and groups, right? I want to talk about copper. COPX is the big one today. It's building a nice little range. And HT, you look at copper futures, okay, it looks like it's trying to build a higher low. Overall, it's building a little bit of a base, right? Looks pretty nice. And you got double inside day. Looks like it's trying to build a higher low off that 50-day. But the stocks in this group, HBM, right, is building a nice base here. You got SCC, and I have HBM on the list. SCCO is building a nice base as well. Maybe a tight day or two here. And I'd want to go for these, or just a move out of their pivots would be super interesting, out of their bases. FCX is another one, looks pretty good. ERO looks pretty good, right? Big bases. TECK, which is super slow, but overall building a big base. There's big bases brewing in these copper names, so it's super interesting to continue to keep an eye on these ones. IGV, right? Inside day to day. It's your software stuff. Maybe it needs a little bit of a pull or not. You get a gap up in the after hours and it pushes through today's highs. Up the inside day would be super interesting. I will say Palantir looks phenomenal. This is one of the best looking charts on my screen. I think it looks awesome. Inside day to day above today's highs, and I will be looking to take a position in this one, whether it's 10% or more, right? We'll see what the risk looks like at the open if it wants to trigger and push through that, but we'll be watching above today's highs. Shopify is another one, looks pretty good. Could watch this one over today's highs. Nice reversal bar today, getting right back above that 10-day almost. Looks like a higher low spot if it wants to. ServiceNow is acting awesome. I don't really see a setup to buy it right now, but maybe just a push out of the pivot. Maybe the day yesterday was the best day to buy it. I think it was, but nonetheless, it looks good. It's you know, relative strength. PanW, this is also IGV, but it's breaking down, right? The cyber stuff's kind of been pretty weak today, so I thought I'd just talk about that, and I'll continue to go over that. Path has been awesome. You know, it's building a nice little sideways flag. It looks like the Workday had an inside day today, but it's got earnings in it like next week, so maybe interesting spot. But let me go over that cyber ETF, right? Cyber pretty heavy, lost 20-day yesterday, kind of coming back right into the pivot, into the base it's built. So maybe it just pulls to the 50, builds a higher low, and then this is just kind of like a squat to continue higher. I wouldn't be surprised, but for right now, it's pretty ugly. Don't really want to step in the way of some of these names. But if I did had to buy any as a higher low, it'd be Rubrik. And I don't see a chance right now just yet. It's got earnings coming up, but it's overall holding up really well. I want to own this name so bad, but it just hasn't really given me an opportunity. So let it continue chopping sideways, let it build a setup, build a higher low, and then this will be on my list, I promise, and I really want to own this. Like I talked about, PanW, continue lower, CrowdStrike, losing the 50-day, super nasty. Okta has been trying to build a base, but losing the 50-day today, not my favorite. FTNT, continuing to be super weak after losing the 50. Net is another one, super nasty, loses the 20-day, another continuation day lower. Not my favorite stuff out here in this group. ArcG is an absolute monster, right? Still looks great. Twist, you know, stall bar today, still looks awesome. Eli Lilly, a name I owned. I didn't like the you know, pull all the way to yesterday's open today, but we'll see how we hold that pivot. If we can't, I will probably either get rid of it or yeah, probably get rid of it if it pulls into you know, failed breakout, pretty much pulls back into the base. Wouldn't be my favorite. It would just be a squat, but I can always just buy it back. So we'll see. My stop remains at you know, August 18th lows. So I'll make the decision tomorrow whether or not I want to deal with that, depending on the pre-market and how it opens tomorrow. TXG, another one, just continue higher. GH is threw this on the list. It's building a base. It reminds me of Eli Lilly, right, where it's gonna possibly offer a higher low setup here inside the base. or just a straight breakout. Looks good either way. But nonetheless, looks pretty good. XBI, right? Double top short sale possibility. IOVA, right, has been pretty nice. Another big move today. 10x ATR from the 50-day. Don't want to be buying this stuff all the way up here. Oops. And Moderna is another one with, you know, a big pull in today. If you bought the EP setup off the open. You know, I'm watching today's highs. You know, it's just an inside day. I don't want to get too negative on it, but you know, it was pretty extended, which, you know, it is what it is, right? It's a stock that's capping up with its highest volume ever, but you know, a pretty big move. So it never triggered above the high volume close, and I just want to continue to keep an eye on it. It's obviously everyone's keeping an eye on this stock. It made a monster move, had some crazy news, so I just want to continue to keep an eye on it. But if you did buy the EP setup and the thing goes up 50% in a day or 40% from the entry, and you're not trimming into that, I don't know what you're doing. So to see something like this today, you should have already been trimmed on a good majority of it, at least half, in my opinion. If you're up 40% on a stock in a day, I mean, come on, that's a massive move, and that's from like a 5-minute opening range breakout. So interesting to say at least. Let me go through these names. I'm just talking too much now. I don't want to make this video hours long. Dell, right? I don't know this name anymore. I did get stopped out on this one, but nonetheless, it could just be a higher low here, and it could just be squatting back in the base. It's still in the big base, right? It did have a nasty failed breakout day yesterday, and you know, today's day is not the best, but if we do get a gap up and we push through today's highs or just get back above the 10 and 20, I'd feel way better about this name. So it still has the possibility of a higher low and a squat. I want to continue to keep an eye on this, and I threw HP on the list as well because this one's out of its base, but it still has a, you know, that potential to make a higher low with the inside day today. So interesting. Want to keep an eye on these ones, right? They've been big leaders. If the market, you know, has a little bit of an expectation breaker tomorrow or next week or something, like, you still want to keep an eye on these ones because they have been holding up and they have been making big moves, and they're out of their bases, well, at least at HP. And I think the software stuff in general should go over this stuff, but I still don't want to take my eye completely off these names because they're not giving up too much. I mean, HP is still above the, you know, or just barely below that 20-day. Dell is still above the 50-day. So, you know, there's been destruction the last week, but they're not done yet, in my opinion, until they lose their 50, and we'll see. FCX talked about inside day or two would be interesting. It's building a big base. I will watch. You know, it pretty much is already peeking its head out over the base, but you know, it's already up more than a full ATR or a full ATR by the, you know, from the open by the time it's already peeking its head out of there. So, and you have what, 0.1% cushion if you're buying it as a flat base breakout. So maybe a day or two of rest, and then we'll go for this one. Frog, you know, IGV group, inside day to day, pullback, you know, it's got to pivot above its head. I like this inside day, but it needs to trigger and it needs to push through today's highs. That'd be the spot I'd watch for. It looks like a higher low setup, though. It's trying to build one. So interesting to say the least. I like it. GH, talked about this one. Super nice day to day as well. Overall, building a base, looks like almost like a cup with handle. Another day or two would be interesting, but nonetheless, I'll watch this one as a breakout. Out of a flat pivot would be interesting. I also owned it through here, through this setup, and that was pretty nice. So maybe it gets tight for another few days and then pushes, but either way, it's building a base. It's an awesome group. You gotta have this one on your list. GitLab, nice inside day to day. Looks like it's trying to build a flag. Almost reminds me of, I think that was MongoDB. No, it was a different one. I can't remember, but you know, these names all kind of look the same as far as your software, right? They're all acting awesome. And then you have some names like Zeta, same thing, right? It's pulling in a little bit today, but nonetheless, it's building a flag and it looks awesome, and it's holding above its 10-day. These are the names to continue to keep an eye on. HBM, a few more days of rest would be interesting, but I will watch over that pivot. That would be an interesting spot. It's pretty much over this high, which, you know, 28 bucks and 50 cents ish area. HPE looks pretty good. I just want to continue to keep an eye on this one. HPE looks pretty good as a higher low. Okay, we'll see what it can do. MU, big RS today. And I want to go over this SMH group here. So, you know, SMH, inside day to day, can it build a higher low? Yes, I'll watch for an expectation breaker day, but I don't want to be planning on buying a stock in anticipation of an expectation breaker. That's not how those work. You wait for them to happen, and then you may be attacked. SMH, not a bad day to day. MU stood out in a big way. Marvell stood out in a huge way. I mean, this thing is acting like it's not even a semiconductor. Big day to day, super interesting. It's back to the 50, big push in price day. I really like it. So I want to continue to monitor this one. NVIDIA's back in the range, right? Like I talked about yesterday, it's just at the 20-day. It looks fine, right? It's just building a range. Maybe it's trying to build a higher low. Could watch it above today's highs, but it's got earnings tomorrow, or sorry, next week. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. But TSM is another one where, you know, it was green today. Not my favorite looking setup in any way at all. A-Lab, inside day. Can this have an expectation breaker day and break up? I don't know, but Micron was nice. And you can even look back at DRAM, and I threw SanDisk on this list too because it had an inside day. It looks like a 4-day flag, right? Kind of like a break through the 50 and a squat back under the 50, and then an inside day push through today's highs. I will be paying attention to this. It's trying to build something here, or it's trying to break down, right? So you can flip the chart and feel any type of way about it, but nonetheless, above today's highs, I will watch for a pushback through the 50-day. STX has a possibility to do that too, but after yesterday's action, extremely, extremely ugly. And I thought, what, Tuesday's action or whatever was super nasty. So we'll see what can happen. But I want to continue to keep an eye on these names. The market was red today. These things are green. MU's pushing through its 50, and SanDisk has a big chance to push through its 50. So definitely want to keep an eye on Palantir, my favorite setup above today's highs. SCCO, maybe another day or two in this little base and this little handle it's building, little flag. Will be interesting, or just a push above that $200 level. Interesting. Snow, this is the name I was going to talk about. That reminds me of GitLab, right? It's just building a flag. It's in the software group. It looks awesome. Maybe some more building out, but nonetheless, it's a higher low setup. It's an inside day above today's highs. Interesting spot. SpaceX, don't want to give up on this one completely. Yes, it had a flush today, but you had the comeback at the end of the day. So that was super nice to see. Right off the 20-day, barely held it above today's highs. That would be an interesting spot. This looks like a potential spot for a higher low. So like I said, above today's highs, interesting spot. Toast, man, this thing looks so good. Inside day, it's building a range. I love this one, right? Above today's highs, get us out of the range, and it can really get going, and it won't chop around, and won't give headaches, so just continue to keep an eye on this one. Just think it looks awesome. It's an awesome group. Names that are focus on the names that are on my list that are in an awesome group. And because that's what I'm mainly focusing on. There's stuff that I'm paying attention to that maybe isn't set up too much or has a chance to wake up, but I'm not going to be aggressive to be buying those ones. I'm focusing on the Toasts, the Palantirs, the GitLabs, the GH, things like that. But the other ones have potential. I want to continue to keep an eye on them. Okay, I'm not going to talk too much. Just don't force trades. Stay patient now until the environment gets better. Wait till you look at a name and say, yeah, I wish I owned that name, blah, blah, blah. There's very few, if any, that I wish I owned right now. So that just tells you that the environment is poor, and stuff's only working for a few days and then reversing it. So you don't get FOMO, right? The market's going up in a big way. You get FOMO that you missed out, you buy it, and then the market goes down in a big way, So, you can get FOMO on any side. But if you see setups in the best acting groups and the market starts to turn up, right, don't hesitate to take those, like a Toast, like a Palantir, right? There are a few good charts in that software space, which is the best group to me now. So let the market maybe build a higher low, watch those names, and I will see you all Sunday night. Hope you all have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Peace.